Welcome to the Redirect Podcast, where we discuss trends and topics in the search marketing space and how it impacts your brand. I'm Jason Dodge, founder and CEO of BlackTruck Media and Marketing. My special guest today is Mordy Oberstein. Mordy is the head of SEO brand at Wix, the content management system and website building tool. Wix is also the author of the Wix SEO Guide. Currently, he also serves as the communications advisor for SEMrush, popular tool that many of us know, dedicated to SEO education. Mordy is also the host of another great podcast, SERPs Up, the SERPs Up podcast, and co-host of the Edge of Web's news podcast. So, Mordy, welcome to the Redirect.
Thanks. That's some bio. Wow, who wrote that?
I did not. ChatGPT did, though, I think. Yeah. I'm not, you know what? I don't know if any of us are leveraging. This is a hell of an intro, right? We're not leveraging things. I just say we're not cool enough, like Lily Ray, who can leverage AI to say, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what these things mean.
I don't think the AI knows me.
No, not at all. I'm okay with that, though. I'm okay with that.
I'm slighted. I take offense, and I will hold a grudge forever now.
All right. Well, welcome, my friend. I appreciate you being a guest on today. Is there anything else you want to say about yourself, about Wix at all? I'll give you the podium for.
No. I don't want to plug. Check out Wix. We've done a lot for SEO for the last 3-4 years. We do some really cool stuff with Google's Search Console. We do great things with Google Search Console, by the way. But Google's URL inspection API. You can do some really cool stuff in inspecting all of your web pages in one click. I'm done plugging. Great to be here on the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So the topic of today's discussion, and that's really what it is, right, is a discussion about the things that either are future looking, current, but really how are they impacting a brand? From BlackTruck's perspective, I always say, like, we don't build websites. We are trusted by brands to improve their visibility online. And so what I really want to talk about was you tweeted out, it might have been a month ago or 2 months ago at this point in time, something that really sparked my attention is something I've been thinking about a lot, which is the idea and the concepts around like brand and SEO, or brand as SEO, which is something that former Moz, Sarah, former CEO or president of Moz, Sarah Bird. Yeah, she used to talk a lot about this, and I think it's actually really relevant today, right? Is SEO as brand, but the idea of how, as SEOs, are we moving kind of beyond the rank and file, if you will, right? If the normal 10 blue links to the SERPs have gone away years ago, even though we still look at top 10 results, like, how as SEOs do we present these ideas and concepts, right? Brand visibility as being just as valuable as rank.
Yeah,
so that's where I want to go.
So I'll tell you, like, I got onto this because I do a lot of brand marketing. Like, my part of my whole job is I don't know how you want to define it, is positioning Wix around SEO. So it's a ton of brand marketing, but it's also a ton of SEO at the same time. And like, I exist in like that little like vertex of like chaos that is brand and SEO. And there are these like poles, there give and takes that come with brand and come with SEO, and having conversation with the wider brand marketing team at Wix, or just focusing on SEO as an SEO with, Krista Carter or George Wynn on my team, like doing SEO on our Wix SEO hub, that kind of thing, and trying to balance both and see both. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that SEOs in general don't think about brand. But I think if you're talking about that tweet, if I remember it correctly, they're going to have to. And I blame AI. Don't blame me. I blame AI for why SEOs are going to have to. And it's because, one, readers are going to become more concerned about the tone, the flavor of what they're reading. They're more skeptical. So if you SEO something to the max extreme, it's going to be looked at like it's almost like AI content, which won't resonate with readers anymore, which I think I tweeted out is going to pit SEOs against brand marketers, and SEOs will lose if that happens.
Interesting. Yeah.
My personal opinion, I think like at least in an enterprise organization, the brand marketers usually have a bit more power.
Yeah, and I would say certainly, if you're like, let's say I'm based here in West Michigan, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, right? So we are well, not only are we Beer City, USA, allegedly, we're also the furniture city, right? Yeah.
Beer
You should
City,
visit.
US.
Yeah.
Wow. I got to
Yeah,
visit.
you
Okay.
should.
Okay.
But contract office furniture manufacturing was really pioneered here, right? We have people like Steelcase, Herman Miller's nearby, Hayworth. These are big mega brands, right? And it's interesting as having the privilege of working with some of those brands and working alongside others who have worked at those brands. Brand and product marketers have always led those, right? So the idea of are you a branded house or are you a house of brands? And I think when SEOs traditionally get involved, it's never a part of that conversation. Or
No.
maybe SEOs aren't thinking to ask those questions. It's just very much like uh problem solution, right? Everything's a nail. Here's a hammer. Start hitting it.
Yep. Hey, more traffic, right? But
Yep, more traffic.
brands as a company are thinking about how are we being perceived? What's the quality of our perception? What's the quality of this traffic that you're what are these people going to walk away feeling? You got us to traffic. What are they going to walk away feeling about us now? And
Yes,
if they're
correct.
going to walk away feeling like that was another piece of fluff content, wonderful, that traffic's not worth it.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so the idea then, and we'll come back to this, I think, a little bit more in depth, the idea of um, I think you might have touched on it in a SERPs Up podcast recently, where you guys were going down that rabbit trail of it is interesting. We're not throwing anybody under the bus here. It's just this is an opportunity to have, I think, real conversations. You've have years of experience in the SEO space as well as I do, as well as many others. But I just find it really interesting that everybody all of a sudden is like, oh, we got to focus on the user. Like, no shit, really?
Right. Yeah. I mean, marketers have been doing that since the 1960s, right?
Yes.
And SEOs come
Yes.
around and say 2022, oh, Google EAT, which is now EAT. We need to think about users. And other marketers are looking at us, are like, oh shit, Sherlock.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I think is an opportunity that if you are in the SEO space, that if you think about technical SEO, it's always okay. How do we work with developers? How do we show value of these changes that we want to do and make nice, play nice in the sandbox? As SEOs, I think you're really it's a pivotal time to make nice with the brand marketers and the product
Yeah.
marketers and have
Yeah.
those conversations as well, right?
That's how these companies are going to differentiate themselves. There's going to be I want to call it like a referendum or a revolution in the brand space. I think you kind of see this with I think it's a lot of things at one time. I think and you see Google trying to develop product for this on the SERP with a couple of their announcements around notes and around perspectives and all that kind of thing. And that's, or even the E for experience, where the content trends are dictating that they don't want brands, they want people.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I think, and I've had these conversations internally at Wix, have been around that page is nice or that landing page is nice if it was 5 years ago. But people are looking for something a little bit more conversational now. So I think like the impact of people wanting content not from brands, but content from people, I don't think it's like literally they just want people. I think it's a very linear way to look at that. I think they're looking for something a little bit more conversational. If you want to zoom out, what's the underlying concept? I don't want to be sold to. I don't want to be spoken to. I want to connect.
Yes. Yeah.
So brands kind of need to pivot and be a little more conversational, which to go into the nitty gritty of that. Let's say now you have headers. Let's really run this through. I have a landing page and I have headers. The way that a brand marketer would have thought about this, let's say, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, would have really aligned with an SEO. Let's say we're selling widgets, like the ultimate best widget ever. Works for SEO, works for branding. Perfect. But if the H1 or the H2 rather is going to be a little bit more conversational, that doesn't jive with traditional SEO in the same way. You're not going to be able to stuff that keyword in the same way. So now what do you do? Hence the problem.
And it's interesting, man. There's so many different rabbit trails we can go down here, right? I mean, the same concept as when you get into pure web development side of things. It is always interesting, right? If we think about the journey that is an SEO and when SEOs get involved, I would say traditionally SEOs get involved after the site is launched, right? Like, and there's a lot of us 9 times out of 10, it's after the fact when it should be. I always say, oh, so you're gonna rebuilding the site and you're gonna launch it in 4 months from now. Great. We should have been involved yesterday. Right? Naming conventions, all of that stuff, but then working with the brand marketers to understand like we can help you optimize, but you can help us from the brand side and being able to be a little bit more cohesive.
Be like this like synthesis and like understanding and like
correct.
Which battle do you fight? If it's on the homepage, like the branding kind of really does come into play there. If it's a third click page, maybe you get to go a little higher, register SEO with that kind of page because it takes 3 clicks to get to it. So I think SEOs know, one is like to know where to fight, but also understand like the wider goal and the wider importance of the branding and try to like work and align with that.
Do you think, so here's a question then, do you think SEOs traditionally, and I don't know what the hell a traditional SEO is versus a non-traditional, right? Like that's saying a natural backlink versus never mind.
I know what a non-natural backlink is. I can show you a couple examples if you want.
Do you think that most SEOs really stop to understand the customer journey?
Not really. I don't think a lot of brand marketers do either. I don't think it's because it's hard, because the customer journey is messy, and it's meeting people's needs at different points and trying to predict those needs along the way. And I think that's what separates out a good writer, a good marketer, or a good SEO is trying to predict. Like, look, even from a link point of view, right? I'm optimizing a piece of content, or I'm writing a piece of content, make it easier. And there's a concept that I'm throwing in there that I don't know if the user really knows or appreciates. So now's a good time to link out. I don't want to cover that point, so I'll link out almost as a way of like anecdotally letting you know about that topic or informing you about that topic without actually addressing that topic. Yeah. So I think a lot of times we don't, as people, it's very hard to do, to really empathize with the user, understand like what problems they're going to face when they're interacting with your content or with your website, and trying to predict those problems and then solve them along the way. And it's also just, even if you can do it, it's really tricky sometimes because you have to do multiple pieces of content in order to do that. So I'll give you an actual example of this. So we launched a new product called Wix Studio. I'm not trying to pitch. This has nothing to do with pitching at all.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I promise. It's just, I was literally just got off a call like dealing with this problem. That's why. It's geared toward a different audience than the traditional Wix product. It's geared more toward agencies. And we have a landing page in that ecosystem about SEO, which makes sense. And it's done from an agency point of view, speaking to that particular audience. Very good. We're targeting our audience. We have another page, which our actual SEO hub sits under. We call like our SEO gate. It's wix.com/SEO, which we created 3 years ago to talk about our SEO product. But now that the user base of Wix is kind of split off. There's the Wix audience, who might be like a self-creator or a business owner, and the Wix Studio audience, who are agencies. The main Wix SEO product page that we built was really for professional level agency kind of people. But now we have almost like not a duplicate version, but we have 2 pages targeting the same audience. So now what do we do with the original page? So we could cater that page to the business owner. But then that's weird, because let's say you land on that page and you're an agency. So now we need to have a page that funnels off the audiences in the right direction, and also considers, like, let's say you don't want any of the product stuff. You just want to get to our SEO Learning Hub. So it's like now we need multiple assets in order to handle this problem. So if you're really trying to think of the problems that your audience are going to deal with, it's usually a shit ton of work.
Well, and what's interesting about that example is that you haven't led any of it with SEO, meaning there you could go back and look at it and go, well, let's look at which page is more valuable, and we can decide that way. You're viewing at it strictly from an audience perspective to say, well, which one is actually more valuable to the audience in which we're trying to communicate.
Yeah. By the way, and to be fair to SEOs, marketers do the same thing. They just call it acquisition.
Yes.
Like which page
Yes.
is more valuable from an acquisition point of view?
Correct. Well, and so that's a really great example, and it gets into kind of going back to the customer journey question too, and you were dipping into it just a little bit, is like that path to purchase, the customer journey, whatever it is, the customer acquisition journey is nonlinear.
Nope. Yep. I mean, yes, not
So
linear.
yeah, not linear, nonlinear.
Yeah. I was saying no to the not linear, like
Yeah.
I would.
No, I wasn't correcting you. And it's what's really fascinating to me is years ago, Google on the this would have been on the ads product side, came out with, and it's in slide decks, and I use it still to this day in a bunch of slide decks. They talk about their micro moments, right? And it's kind of like I want to see. So it's basically like I'm researching, but I'm not ready to buy. I'm intrigued, but I want to experience, but I'm not there yet. And then like that final moment is I want to buy. And I think what sometimes marketers forget is that is nonlinear, and it takes it's multiple touch points, right? And so like SEO's job, elevating a brand in the SERPs, gaining more traffic organically, reminding perhaps marketers and those in the C-suite that like that's one piece of the puzzle, just one.
Yeah, it's just right. That's a great post, by the way. I love that post that they put out about that. I remember like it was like 4 years ago. I'm terrible at time.
At least 4 years ago.
Yeah, I remember like coming out. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's all one song, but there's multiple instruments all happening to make the song.
Yeah.
And SEO is one part of it. I think from an SEO point of view, it's really important to remember that the site in general doesn't want to just sell. Like there's a lot that goes into selling something.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So you provided a good example. I'll try and do the same similar, but use kind of from a SERP perspective. If we think about the customer journey, and then where I want to go with this is how do we propose to explain to someone that perhaps their site isn't the one that needs to be ranked for brand growth and ROI with an asterisk that says that's a tough one to measure. But so case in point, we do a bit of work in the travel and tourism space, and we were working with a tour operator in a beautiful part of the country, and they tour this national park, this national landmark from the water. Probably one of the best ways to see it, right? So client says, hey, I want to rank more for these types of phrases, a little bit more generic, like how do I see this, or kind of what's the best way to tour it? I mean, good journey phrases. And what it came down to is that you noticed that the National Park Service was ranking number one, which you're not going to beat out the National Park Service and the government. But if you go to the National Park Service, who are they talking about? They're talking about you. They're talking about your brand, and they have all of your brand assets there and contact information. Amazing. Obviously, there's paid in there, and they're bidding, and their competitors bidding. Yep, fine. Organically, then number two, who is it? Oh, it's them. It's the brand. It's our client. Win. 3, Convention and Visitor Bureau. Who are they talking about? You. 4th is the local Chamber of Commerce. Who are they talking about? You. What are we up to? 5.
Right.
It's like a travel mom blog. Who are they talking about? You. So like what it came down to was like 7 out of the air quotes top 10 had some mention of your brand in there. At any one point in time, that person could have converted, right? That they could have called and booked a tour. They could have clicked through, obviously, and booked online, but that would be a little bit more trackable. But like, who gets the win?
You.
The
win.
The brand wins.
The brand. I say you win. Yeah, the brand. You win.
Yeah.
It's like that, by the way, for if you like Google like SEO podcasts, because I track the keyword like pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
There's very few podcasts that rank. A little plug, like we rank. Most of the I gotta double check before I like say that. Let me take
I'm looking right now.
Yeah, okay, good. Most of the websites that rank are lists, right? And the fact, the first
Yes,
thing I'm
they
looking at,
are.
a best SEO podcast. The first thing is a SEMrush ad, right? Our podcast is in that list, by the way. They have a list of like 10 SEO podcasts.
Yep.
And then there's an SEJ, an Ahrefs, Conductor. It takes a little while till you get like an actual podcast in there. So branding is like the reason we got into some of these lists is because it's just because of the branding or the relationships that we've built. Like it's nothing to do with SEO.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? You talk about relationships and you think about where your content is getting picked up and distributed, right? Ross Simmons is a huge proponent of that. I love it. Like create content once, distribute forever. Like, yeah, yes, more of that. But like I've always found it fascinating that the best link builders that talk at conferences, at search marketing conferences, are PR people.
PR.
Like
you mentioned this on our podcast recently, which we
didn't
release. I'm pretty sure you did.
I'll wait to release this until you release yours. How about that?
Oh no, don't wait for us.
It's just interesting, but I think going back to that whole journey is just really, I think it's just an opportunity for SEOs to think about how we're educating, how we're explaining to people. And I get it's hard. It's a hard sell, right? Like we're not talking about specific keyword ranks and tracking that. Tracking brand visibility is really difficult.
It's almost impossible to a certain extent. No one does it really well.
No.
I'll go like one step further. A lot of the momentum you build as a brand pays off SEO wise.
Yes.
And whether that's, traditionally because like, that you have more links, or whether Google's tracking users, whatever it is, I kind of compare brand to social media and SEO. No, it's not a direct ranking factor. Like Google said, if you share URLs across social media, they can't see them there and index them from that. But social media, your URLs performing well and being shared across social kind of builds momentum. And true. I don't know, I can't describe to you like exactly what I mean by this, but like whether it's people again taking that content, linking to it because they saw it on social media, or just talking about you or mentioning you, or having, because of that, having you on a podcast, and now you're showing, your link is going to be included in this, whatever it is, it just kind of creates momentum. And it's very much for branding at the same time as well. So that's something to consider. And I kind of want to go back to a point where we were kind of talking about before, when you're trying to consider the overall branding impact. One of the things you need to consider touches the quantity of traffic, but the quality of that traffic and what happens with that 100%. Traffic, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And part of what gets the conversion. It's the whole reason that brand marketing exists, is how the consumer feels once they hit the asset, which in this case we'll say is a web page. We're talking about SEO. If they hit it and they don't feel good about it, they're going to bounce. It might be the most relevant content. It might be the best deal. Imagine you had the best product on the whole world. It's the best deal on the best product in the whole world, but you land on the web page and it's ranking, by the way, #1 for every keyword imaginable, but you land there and it feels like a website from 1995 with like neon all over the place. I'm not buying it.
Right.
It's a little bit of an extreme example, but part of your job as an SEO is to consider how the work that you're doing fits into the site's ultimate goal of actually earning revenue. And to me, earning revenue is hand in hand with customer sentiment. You can't have one without the other. Like imagine Amazon did some like horrible thing, some big scandal with Jeff Bezos. Their sales are impacted by that. There's no doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that and we know, right, because of a lot of recent findings and recent discussions being had, here in the States, in DC, quite the microscope being placed over Google right now, that I think the hunch that many SEOs have had for a long time is that Google, have been tracking user interactions and SERPs. Like, well, yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, the concepts of a short click versus a long click and pogo sticking, and what are they doing? Like, yes, absolutely. Because how else do you know that content or that site or that brand is helpful if you don't measure that?
They've been saying it forever, by the way, officially. The Rank Brain looks at user behavior and decides whether or not to reevaluate or reweigh the ranking factors around the particular query.
Correct. Do you think, okay, so 100%. If we're going to think about how you, I guess, how would you propose to someone to be able to, or how do you do that now at Wix as head of SEO brand? Like, how do you report on the value of that?
Yeah, so it's a lot of, you have to understand like the stage of evolution and where you're at, right? If you're, I don't know, working with a situation where you're a new brand.
Okay.
So I wouldn't look at acquisition for a long time from a brand point of view. You're just trying to get awareness. You're trying to get increased value around the brand. You're trying to build up a reputation. Looking at acquisition is way down the line.
Yeah.
So there really isn't a good way other than by having your finger on the pulse of your community. You have to, I don't think there's any other way to do this, but to really be part and parcel of whatever community that you're in. If you're selling furniture, whatever the furniture building selling community is, you kind of need to be in that in a real way. And there's no other way to measure how you're doing other by having your finger on the pulse of that. Eventually, what happens, and this is, and I think I tweeted about this also relatively recently, in brand marketing, I feel like one thing should build on the next thing. Your next move should be the very logical next step. Like you should understand, like, where are we at? What's working? What's resonating? What logically now comes next?
Yeah.
How do we naturally evolve? And like that process should continue. At a certain point, you need to be aware of the fact that, okay, now we're at a point where we need to start doing X with the product. I will give you a clear example from the Wix side. So on the Wix SEO Learning Hub, we were initially very, very, very conscious of not putting our finger on the thumb for the Wix product. So we talk about, I don't know, how to do a redirect, or not how to do it, that's a bad example. I don't know, what's a canonical tag?
Okay.
There might be nothing in that post about Wix and canonical tags.
Yep.
Okay, and that made a lot of sense. Like we weren't really a known player in the SEO space from an informational content point of view. We didn't think it was the right thing to do. Blah 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 blah. All these things like led us to make that decision. We just think, you know, I'll be honest with you. Part of what factored into that decision, I don't want to get in trouble saying this, not with Wix, but with other people. A lot of other SEO companies, and I'll be critical. I think SEMrush, Ahrefs, Moz, maybe to a different extent. Moz to a lesser extent, I think, are too acquisitional in their informational content. They're too heavy with their product on the thumb, their thumb on the product in the post. I understand why you want to have your product in the post. You want to sell the product, fine, but it's a little bit too much sometimes. And I kind of felt like the community needed a refresh from that. So we said very little on the Wix product. And by the way, that's a branding move. Maybe not good for SEO. Like maybe if we rank and we have the product in there, blah blah blah. Like as an SEO, I might not think that way. I would think put the product in there. You'll rank the post. The product will be in there. You'll get conversions from the product, and your boss will be happy because you got the traffic and then you got the conversion.
Yeah.
But not every sale is immediate, and I think it's something that SEOs need to appreciate. The fact you want to sell something. I do want to sell Wix. I want my family to eat. It's pretty simple.
Life needs.
Yeah, it's just like if you buy Wix, you will feed my family.
You heard it here.
Right. But not every sale needs to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And if I want to sell, I could sell one subscription now, or maybe I can sell 1,000 in 2 years from now.
That's right.
And a lot of the 1,000 in 2 years from now is all of the branding build up first, and the SEO side being patient. Like I don't mean just the SEO side. I mean like that acquisitional mindset, being patient for the right moment. So now, by the way, and I'll tell you why we made this decision. We want to say, okay, let's be a little bit more energetic about where we place the product for multiple reasons. One is like, I think we've established a reputation of like, we're not just selling you shit. That's not why we're writing this content. But we've also had people come to us and say, I love this post about canonicalization, but how does Wix handle this? So we've gotten to a point with the audience where as more SEOs have adopted Wix,
Mhm.
that the content's more relevant to them. And that was really the decision to say, okay, we are where we were 3 years ago and where we are now is not the same place.
Well, sure.
And we have to now pivot the content accordingly. So if we're getting questions of, I like this post, but how do you handle this on Wix? Because you are at the end of the day reading the post in a Wix ecosystem.
Mhm.
It kind of makes sense that you would ask, well, how do I do this on Wix, or do I have to worry about it on Wix? So now we have to have the very, very careful balance of addressing the audience that does need to know how we handle canonicalization on Wix and not being too acquisitional with the content, which is why we have George Wynn, because like George is the perfect person for that. And it's something you have to balance. And by the way, that's a good thing, because in theory, the more we have the content around Wix in those kind of posts in the right way, at the right moments for the right audience, should see naturally an uptick in acquisition, because the
Mhm.
product is being there, it's being placed there. People will naturally want to seek that out. And I'm being very simple about this, and that we should see a little bit of an uptick in acquisition. Do I
Mhm.
expect to see a huge uptick in acquisition? No. If I saw 1%, I think that's successful, and I think that's
Yeah.
appropriate. Which is another thing. Like, SEOs need to understand what's appropriate. It wouldn't be appropriate for Wix to see at a 25% increase in acquisition from the SEO hub because of we added, a little line or a little image or a little, very at the bottom of the page, what you need to know on your Wix site about
Right.
canonicalization.
Right.
If we did, something would be wrong there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's yeah, and SaaS products, right, especially I think fall into that into a lot of this where it's acquisition, acquisition, acquisition. I mean, I get it, but also on the flip side of that too, we do quite a bit of B2B marketing. It was something I spoke about at MozCon this year. Was this idea that you might have content out there that's ranking for the wrong things, that and I think there's still a lot of SEOs that do this, that we're producing content and we're producing wins, right? We're getting we're getting visibility in the SERPs, and we are growing traffic from organic, and that's awesome. But yeah, the acquisition and the time, the actual money metrics aren't really improving. Okay. So you've done the job you were hired to do. I get that. But half the battle is getting people there. The other half is getting them to do what we want them to do eventually. And when you're dealing with highly specialized B2B verticals, considered purchase, meaning hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million type contracts, that conversation is vastly different, or should be different. And I think that is where, back to your point, we as SEOs need to be working closer with brand marketers. We need to make a push for getting SEOs in the executive room earlier. And something that I always say to our clients too is like, right, like if you're my direct connect, my job is ultimately, I need to make sure that you look good, right? So that you have trust with the C-suite and you made the right decisions. But I always say this, like, I would love nothing more than put me in the boardroom.
Yeah.
Whenever you want, put me in the boardroom and I will come and talk to them. Just be prepared that I'm going to be honest with them, right? Like, I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to be brutally honest with them and direct, and say, these are the things out there in the ecosystem from an entity perspective. Like, this is what's impacting your brand.
Yeah. But by the way, if I was an SEO, I would love to be in the boardroom. I would be very concerned about a lot of SEOs in the boardroom. Because let's take your scenario, right? Could you imagine, right? You have a $15 million where we make aircraft carriers, and basically we have 5 potential buyers on this planet to buy an aircraft carrier. And the content manager, let's say, says, you know what we really need? We need a lot of content, like ancillary content, kind of explaining the whole process, the sales process, the building process, everything they need to know about this aircraft carrier we're going to sell them. And the SEO is like, but it's not going to rank. Why are we wasting our time on content that's not, there's no search
That's right.
volume?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's where, and it's a very extreme example, but you can have this a
Oh,
lot of
but
cases where
I think it's highly accurate, and it goes back to the whole the tool does not dictate the strategy. You can be a SEMrush user, an Ahrefs user, you could be a Moz user. It doesn't matter. You need to have some intuition and some more in-depth, intimate knowledge about the industry. You got to
you
get
have to
dirty,
read
get
that
in the room.
You have to
Absolutely.
read the room. If you're walking to the boardroom and the content manager's like saying, look, to make this sale, we really have to build trust with the audience. And to build trust with the audience, we're going to have to create a whole heap of content that really is only there just in case they want to read it.
Yeah.
And really, we don't expect them to read it at all. Just the fact that we have it there and they see that we have it there will build trust with them. So they buy this $20 gazillion aircraft carrier. And you're the SEO saying, wait. That's so out of touch.
And too, if we're not speaking to the trends, if we're not speaking to the outside economic and environmental factors that impact those industries, there's a lot of things happening in the world right now, unfortunately. Yeah, look, call it what it is. Anybody that works in the defense world right now, yep, you're trending upwards. Gee, I wonder why. That's not an SEO's win. Like, let's have a real honest conversation with people and say, we need to be a part of that conversation, and this is where we're going to plug in. Right.
All of a sudden, you're getting more traffic coming in. See the great job I'm doing? Yeah, okay. Could be the fact that like you're just incredibly relevant right now.
Yes. Yeah. So having your finger on the pulse of what also is relevant. You have to be a little bit more dynamic. I think that's the future. That's the future where we're headed. If you haven't started that now, you need to or should be headed in that direction. Not to say that from an SEO's perspective, what you've continued to do will probably make you money, and that's fine. No, I'm just not interested in that churn myself.
No, nothing really has to change. Right. The only thing I feel like that has to change is for you to realize where SEO fits in and the other considerations around the website and the business that are rapidly changing right now. I don't think I've ever seen the web in such a state of flux or at a crossroads or at a junction points like this in my life. And if you're going to walk in there the same kind of mindset that you had 5-6 years ago, you're running the risk of entering into conflict with other teams who at the end of the day might outweigh you in terms of power in that organization.
I agree. Well, let's just being conscious of time, let's wrap up on this idea and saying, with a lot of the flux, with a lot of the volatility that's happened, what percentage do you feel that AI has played in that over the last year?
Huge, but not in the sense of like, oh, now there's AI written content. I don't think that's really the real impact. I think the impact has been, just the other day, I don't know when this is going to be released, but just the other day, Sports Illustrated got caught.
Yes, you were going where I was going to go. That's awesome.
Putting out the AI content thing. Now they're saying it wasn't us, it was third parties. But even that, right? That changes the whole dynamic. Wait a second, I'm a brand, and now Sports Illustrated got nailed, becomes some third party that was hosting their content on the website, put out AI. Maybe I'm out of this game, but maybe my SEO is saying, no, we need the content, it'll rank, it'll bring in traffic, but I don't want that now. The brand risk is too high. And I think AI has started to create all these conversations about risk, about user scrutiny, about user content trends. It's aside from whatever is done technologically and what it's churned out, it's sparked a whole conversation that I think was maybe 10 years down the line if it weren't for AI.
No, I think you're spot on, right? It really comes back to the kind of the phrase that always sticks out in my mind is brand trust. And the latest snafu, if you will, and there's countless numbers of these, if you want to go and dig into it, that have happened over the last year, right? Especially with the Sports Illustrated deal, like
there was a CNET
CNET, and so unfortunately, that's like a brand equity killer. It really is, because people now, right? We lean into those publications because we're looking for there. I bet if you polled most people, they would still say they want real journalism. It's sad the amount of news that people get off of social media sites and things like that, because that's not the purpose of this podcast about what's filtered and what's not. But like the idea that if you're looking for real journalism, like I don't have a problem with a journalist using a chat GPT to get over writer's block and like get some thought starters.
Yeah,
Cool.
no, for
But
sure.
still you still have to do your own homework. You still have to write the piece. You still like make it good and genuine and authentic. And I think that is what people ultimately want.
Yeah. A hot take. If you had a piece of like news content, same words, literally same words. The stars cosmically aligned, and what's on the page from the AI is exactly what I wrote. And you said to the user, here's the content from the AI and from Morty, and they're both exactly the same. Which one do you want? They
I'd
would
want
say
it from
me, not because they
yeah.
like me. Nobody likes me,
No.
but it's because like you want to connect as a human, like as existentially, like cosmically, you want to be able to connect, and I can't connect with a bot. And it might be the same content, but I feel at least if I'm reading from a person, I feel connected in some way to that person.
Agree. Yeah, there still needs to be some level of authorship there. So yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So what would be let's close this out with like giving your two tips that I think SEO should be, or that Morty thinks that SEO should be thinking about. Let's just say going into 2024, right? Moving forward.
Ooh.
And also the idea of brand SEO, if you will. Do you feel that is something that big brands only can do, or small brands can apply it as well?
Small brands could probably do it in a certain sense. Like big brands have an easier time with it because they just have like all that equity stored up.
Got it. Okay.
Right. At the same time, small brands are just far more agile. You can do a lot more things real quick. Like we are a very slow moving machine. It takes us someone like, hey, you want to partner up on something in 2 weeks? I'm like, 2 weeks? How about like 2 months?
Yeah. Okay.
So big brands have a lot of like layers that they have to go through. You could be doing a lot of stuff to build up that brand equity really quickly and really agilely. What was it like the predictions?
The first question was just like give everybody just two tips on how to
Tips.
maybe
Okay.
either be thinking about this or measuring it, or how are you proposing these things that we need to think differently about this, right?
My biggest like tip is to like know which battle to pick and where to pick it from an
Mm-hmm.
SEO point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Walking in there, guns blaring about traffic and optimization, the search engines. It's that room is not the same room as it was before. I'm trying to like think of like, I don't know, like it's like walking into a wedding hall, like dressed like a 1970s tuxedo. Like everyone look at you like that's a little out of place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, the
that's
90s
like,
are back, don't you know? The 90s are back.
are they back really?
I
I
think
have
so.
so
I'm
much
not
clothes.
I'm not a
I
fan.
have so
Come
much
on.
clothes I can wear now.
I'm not a fashion. I'm not a fashion.
I have
Like,
no.
come
My
on.
wife's
I'm
like that
saying look at
jacket's
me
like
like you can see me.
my wife's like, hey, that jacket you're wearing looks 80s. I'm like, I don't know. Are the 80s back in? I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I don't know.
I don't know. I just wear clothes that like I find at the store and they wear them. I don't know. Um, so I think SEOs need to be conscious of like the room and reading that room.
Great. Yep.
And I also think that they need to be aware of wider trends around them, which will help them read that room. And it'll help them do better SEO at the end of the day. I mean, Danny Sullivan talked about this at Brighton SEO. As I mentioned before, it's been part of RankBrain forever. I think it's part of the whole user behavior conversation. We're looking at the algorithm. Google's looking at users.
Yep.
And whatever trend you see out there, I'll give like a real quick like example. I was looking at the Wayback Machine on a product review page. And so 10 years ago, whatever it was, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, they used first person language, I, we, you, us, whatever it was, 8 times. Right. Fast forward to now, and it was 150 times. And I don't think it was just like some SEO saying, oh, Google's looking at this. Let's like stuff in a bunch of first person language. The way we talk is just different. The way we write is just different. The audience is just different. At a certain point, the algorithm is going to pick up that profile and say, wait a second. Yeah.
Huge. Yeah. And from a SEO's perspective, the only one that was probably paying attention to that was Mike King.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, some
like,
people just don't think about
to be
this
real.
stuff.
You're not thinking that far ahead. So I'll give you my two kind of tips or takeaways. So obviously I say we need to start moving away from just the concept of, ooh, where do we rank? Like, let's just set that on the shelf. Like, it's there. You can pull it down when you need to, right? But it's there. Ignore keyword volumes for a moment.
Yeah.
Don't let that be your starting guide, because the volumes, especially in my experience especially in B2Bs and obscure, like no tool is going to have that data. Okay. It's not going to be there.
Emerging topics, same thing. Like it's not there.
Yep. And the other one is get in the room. That seems very vague. It feels cliche to say, but like get in the room. Get in the room with the subject matter experts. Like, I don't care if you get down on plastic injection molding or not. I'm going to ask you to get down on plastic injection molding, and like, let's go walk the shop floor.
Hell yeah. I know a guy, he's a friend of mine. He works as a technical writer for a company that makes microchips.
Awesome.
Yeah, super cool. And he says, yeah, I have to get dressed up in the vacuum proof suit. And I have to go in there and like see and whatever, so I can 100%. Write about how to use it.
Yeah. We have a fantastic client. Talk about clean rooms and things like that, like clean spaces, clean environments. They're doing the it's stuff for the new Artemis, the new spacesuit. Like,
super cool.
I just want to be a fly on the wall and listen to that conversation and be like, what really matters most to you guys?
Yeah. And the SEO you'll be able to do because of that, and the understanding you'll be able to have is valuable.
I really do think, in kind of closing, that SEO, sometimes we undervalue ourselves in the notion. Where I'm going with this is that we already are sponges of a lot of different industries, unless you work in one industry vertical and that's it. But you are a natural sponge and a natural skeptic anyways. There isn't anyone better to be helping ask those questions. You don't have to be the person to ask the questions, but to be able to help come up with those and some alternative thinking. So that's like my closing thought and encouragement is like, just think about it differently, Yeah. That's it. Awesome. Well, Mordy, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Where can people find you, hear more about you? Obviously, the SERPs Up podcast is at Wix.com, right?
Yeah, Wix.com/SEO/learn.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of slashes.
And how about yourself? Where can people find you online?
I guess Twitter. I don't call it X. I refuse to call it X.
Yeah, Twitter, X, Threads. I don't know. Where are we at?
LinkedIn and X, Twitter, whatever.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. This has been a great episode of the Redirect Podcast. There will be a lot of additional content in the show notes as usual, and you can find those at blacktruckmedia.com, as well as please subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts from. Please subscribe to the Redirect or check out our shorter version, BTW with BTM. Until next time, good luck.